From Tally to Cali,
It's time
to wake up.
Wake up! Wake up!
Warchant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source.
And this is Wake Up Warchant, presented by Corner Pocket Bar and Grill.
One more corner pocket.
Now here's Warchant.com's Aslan Hajavandi.
And Corey Clark.
Wake up! What is up, everybody? It is Wake Up Warchant, presented by the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill, Tallahassee, Florida. Coming up on today's show, some timely news that we got to get to, but then the Renegade Express. Big, long show. Buckle in, everybody. Warchant.com is the ultimate Seminole sports source. Wake Up Warchant, presented by the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill. That's in Tallahassee, Florida. CPTallybar.com is the website. As always, though, you can pull out your phone, open up your camera, take a photo of that QR code. You don't even have to hit snap on it. Just boom, it'll take you right to the website. The URL will pop up. You can check out the website for daily lunch specials, as well as a social calendar, if you will. Lots of football this weekend, NFL variety. If you're going to watch it in Tallahassee, watch it at the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill. Maybe shoot some pool, throw some darts at halftime. Keep yourself occupied, as well as the family. Warchant.com, ultimate Seminole sports source. Thumbs up if you're listening to us on YouTube. 5-star rating and review on the Apple devices, please. Subscribe to the YouTube channel as well. Subscribe to the website. Again, $29.99 takes you from right now up until September 1st. Can't beat it. Well, I mean, you could have beat it for $1. We told you. But, you know, not a bad consolation prize, if you will. Corey Clark's here, everybody, as well. Corey, how are you, man?
I'm good, buddy. I'm good. It's been a week. We're almost through it. Stephanie and I are taking a little trip. It's a bummer. We love our Friday nights at Corner Pocket. We won't be able to do it tonight, though, because we'll be in West Palm Beach watching one of our favorite comedians, Anthony Jeselnik. Stephanie, it was a birthday present for me. It was a Christmas present for me.
Okay.
From Stephanie. So we're still working on my Christmas present to her, but it's in the works, everyone. I'm
really?
a great boyfriend.
Come on. You waited forever for one of her birthday gifts, the Pearl Jam thing, and now you haven't gotten her a Christmas gift, and we're creeping towards February? Come on, man.
Well, the gift is I'm going on a cruise with her. But
okay.
It's my gift to her. It's not like me just saying, hey, you can pay for me to go on a cruise.
Yeah, right.
But she's got to pick the dates and everything, and where we're going. But yeah, so we'll be in West Palm, but we'll be back later on this weekend, and we'll probably be at Corner Pocket doing our thing.
Good luck, Stephanie. Good luck finding dates that don't conflict with a sports writer who covers a team that's really popular, and it's a website, so you have to do something every single minute, every single day, every single week, month.
The beauty, though, is like we could probably go ahead and book it for like one of the NCAA tournament weekends. Don't think we're going to be worrying too much about that. But, hey, at least Baba Miller got to play, so got to see him. Got to make him – he made his debut.
I don't know if we're going to get to everybody's question. We're going to try. We really are. But we got like 29 questions. I've bundled them up. And then we got a whole bunch of real newsy stuff that's happened.
Yeah.
I guess let's start with the most timely of it. Clemson fired their offensive coordinator, Brandon Streeter. They went and hired Garrett Riley. I know we're not Wake Up Tigers, but it does somewhat affect us tangentially here in Tallahassee. Dabo, I don't know. I'm cool with that. I'd rather him do that than start hopping in the portal. Go ahead, change chefs. I think you need better ingredients in Clemson. So I'm not all that threatened by it. But interesting to see him maybe feel threatened by what's going on in Tallahassee and do a pretty bold move, and that's get rid of a guy that had been kind of raised through the ranks there in Clemson and get rid of him and go for Garrett Riley, who was the OC at TCU. If you're wondering, Clemson was 30th in scoring offense, averaging 33.2 points per game, 48th in yards.
Yeah.
TCU, meanwhile, 27th in yards with 455 yards a game, 9th in scoring offense, 38.6.
So he was the OC at TCU.
Correct. Yeah.
So it'll be air raid-esque. Ish. Okay.
You're right.
Hey, credit to Dabo, man, right? Like, not too stubborn to realize there's a problem.
But this isn't the way to solve it. I'm happy, though, but yeah. I don't want to
maybe. Yeah, but clearly he had made a bad hire at OC. That was not working out. They went into the tank, really, these last 2 years. They were awful. I mean, they had a championship-level defense, especially 2 years ago in 2021, but their offense was terrible. And it wasn't much better this year. It was better, but it wasn't much better. And when you look around the country and you see what Georgia and Clemson's on that podium, right?
Yeah.
With Georgia and Ohio State and Alabama, where they think they are, and their offense was just not good enough the last 2 years. So credit to him. And that goes back to maybe the guy that was here when Florida State was awesome maybe not making those kind of changes. I don't know that has Dabo ever fired anyone, but man, you got to take hold of your program. So good for him. Because 10 wins is good, right? You could look and say, hey, we won 10 games. We were really close to winning 12. It's not like we got blown out. But it wasn't good enough for him. So, I mean, again, trust me, I hope Clemson goes 5-7 next year. I'm not rooting for Clemson, but it's good to see somebody, when they realize there's a problem, kind of get rid of it pretty quickly. And look, you're right. It might be the ingredients more than the cook. But still, try to make a change. Don't just sit there and be stubborn about it. So, all right.
Probably fired Kevin Steele when he brought in Venables, and I don't know what he did before Chad Morris.
I think, though, yeah, that's right. Wasn't Kevin Steele's last game there, the West Virginia game?
Yeah,
he gave up 70 points. Good point.
Tate Rodemaker, rumors of his demise, greatly exaggerated, or not greatly exaggerated, rather. Shout out Battle's End.
Yeah.
They locked up.
Do you think they
Tate.
listened to the show and were like, that's a pretty good point. We probably need to lock up Rodemaker. I think that's what it was. But yeah, I saw that. I saw that driving down to Tallahassee on Thursday. I'm like, okay, there you go. All right, you basically wrapped them all up now, right?
Yeah, that's important. That's a really important insurance policy. So good to see that happen. I mean, I'm happy for Tate too. I mean, listen, man, they signed AJ Duffy 2-3 weeks ago. And I don't know, man. These are human beings. If Corey signed a contract extension at Warchant to do a podcast and I wasn't getting a contract extension, I'd probably be a little bit nervous.
Rightfully so.
So I'm glad Tate was able to get that settled. So shout out to him. Shout out to the collective. Malik McClain, he gone. Good night, sweet prince. We didn't talk about it, but it's been posted on the board, social media. Obviously, he started 9 games in 2021, only 3 games this past year. Darion Williamson, Kentron Portier, and then also obviously Johnny Wilson, Winston Wright, Micah Pittman, Ja'Kai Douglas. There's just a lot.
Hakeem Williams,
yeah. They like Vandrevius Jacobs. They like Goldie Lawrence. All these 3 guys that they signed in this incoming class, Mike Norvell said, are guys that they think can compete and produce immediately. So maybe Auburn's in the play for him there with Hugh Freeze trying to make things anew on the Plains, but somebody had to leave, and Malik kind of, in some sort of way, stepped up and maybe helped everybody else out by making that decision.
Well, yeah, that's one way to look at it. But, yeah, I think somebody on Headlines asked this, the over-under 1.5 for receivers entering the portal. And this was before Malik McClain announced, and I went over immediately.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I don't think he's the last one. But I just think there's a lot of bodies there, man. You go into next season with, Micah Pittman, Winston Wright, Johnny Wilson, Kentron Portier, and I was intrigued by the Oklahoma game. He didn't have a good game, but it was pretty clear they wanted to make Darion Williamson a part of something. Like, I feel like they look at his potential and think, and maybe I'm just wrong, maybe it's just me reading into it too much, trying to read between the lines that aren't there. They like his future maybe more than the other guys, the other younger guys, in quotes, on the roster. And they really tried to force feed him the ball and get him on the field. Didn't do much, but he it's his first game back from 6 or 7 weeks being hurt, or 6 or 7 games he missed after the Boston College game. But I think Darion Williamson's a big part of their future, or they think he is. Yeah. And Portier had a nice season, so you could be Malik McClain and look like, okay, they seem to really like 21. 88 had a nice season. 14's coming back. Once 14 announced he was coming back, we can all understand Malik McClain wanting to be like, okay, well, it's not like there's any animosity here, but I want to go catch some passes. I don't want to be the 7th receiver. I want to be the 3rd receiver or the number 1 receiver. And I think coming into next season, and he's got potential, we all see that. But I would say going into next season, especially if Hakeem Williams is the real deal, Malik McClain was going to be, 6 or 7. 5, 6, somewhere in that neighborhood, and he probably wants to be 1 or 2 somewhere.
Yeah, great. I mean, he started the opener. It's crazy, but I do think Darion brings a little bit more excitement, explosiveness out wide for them, so I think they probably made the right pick here. Now, Darion did get injured in his senior year of high school, and that's why he really kind of was brought along slowly here the past 2 seasons and finally got right and then got hurt again. So, but it's worth taking a chance, if you will, and investing in him, because you do like what you have with Johnny and your frontline guys like Winston Wright. And it's just worth having Darion around, because if he stays healthy, you like what you have from him. Because,
but I also wouldn't categorize it as they chose one or the other. I mean, I don't know that they went to.
I mean,
Malik
you said they're force feeding him to get him
no.
involved
I
in the
think
bowl game,
they definitely wanted to like. I don't know if maybe they were worried about him leaving and like, hey man, we really like you. We're gonna run some plays for you. We promise you got a spot. But they threw a deep ball to McClain too that he could have caught. He maybe didn't. I don't know. It seemed like a good throw.
I thought it was PBU, but yeah, I got it.
You're right. Yeah, but our PI, who knows, man? Come on, Malik McClain should be getting those calls. But I don't think the Florida State coaches were like, all right, yeah, Malik's gone. I just think it's a nice like, okay, we understand. We're also not going to probably be wiping our tears for the next 2 hours because we've got guys behind you. Like, I don't think it was either or necessarily like, okay, we're choosing Darion over you. It's just that, like you said, I think maybe Malik saw maybe Malik saw it better than Darion did. Maybe Darion has more confidence in himself to be a big-time player next year. I don't know.
Yeah. Always weird to talk about these because I don't want to be the guy that's like, yeah, he's leaving, but it's okay. I don't want to diminish the guy, but yeah.
Well, but it's the same. It's kind of Trayshawn-ish, right? Not quite to the same level because Trayshawn did more in college. Trayshawn was more of a productive player. But I think we all understand with the way the 2023 roster is built that you can't keep all these guys happy. It was too crowded. Both those rooms are too crowded. And I think it probably does something. I think in the end, with Trayshawn leaving, as good a teammate as he was and as good a player as he was, I think it probably makes for a little more harmonious offense. And I think with Malik McClain, the same thing. Malik McClain would be going into his third year, kind of a money year. And he's getting better. Like, he's a 6'4" kid that can run, and he's made some really tough catches in his career at Florida State. But how harmonious is it going to be if he's in the 7th week of the season and has 5 catches or 9 catches? So, you kind of, it's not addition by subtraction because that makes it sound like they're malcontents.
Yeah.
Or it's I don't mean it like that, but you can't have you really can have too many in a room where all of a sudden there's a little bit of bickering, there's animosity, there's jealousy, there's pettiness. All that stuff can come into play a little bit, especially when you're third year in a system. So, Trayshawn leaving, Malik leaving, it's definitely better for them because I think they're going to get more opportunities. I also don't think there's a lot of animosity. I don't think there's any ill will or bridges being burned. But it might end up being better for Florida State, too, in the offense because it's going to be more guys. It's going to be less guys unhappy.
Happened on Tuesday, became official yesterday. Patrick Surtain, new defensive backs coach for Florida State, most recently defensive assistant for the Miami Dolphins. 8-9 years at American Heritage High School, 4 of them, I think, 4 or 5 of them as head football coach, 3 state championships.
Yeah.
Lots of explosive, productive players have come through American Heritage and are still out there, everybody. Maybe they'll enter the portal, and maybe that'll help.
I noticed that. Did you do that? Or did you read that? Like, as soon as I saw that he was coming, I'm like, man, he was at American Heritage for 6 years as the head coach and won a bunch of state titles. Let me go through the old rankings and see, like the old Florida, like the state of Florida high school rankings, and see how many of those American Heritage guys were big-time players. And what do you know? Yeah. There were quite a few of them, quite a few DBs, actually, that are only 1 or 2 years into their college careers and, maybe want to come play for their former head high school coach. Yeah.
No college coaching experience. I don't care. I think it's a great hire. Corey, your thoughts?
Yeah, I do too. I think you look, man, you have – I don't know. What else would you want from that position coach? You've got a guy that clearly knows the position. He played in the league for 11 years at a high level. He's a 3-time or 4-time Pro Bowler. He also has a ton of connections in South Florida and has coached a bunch of really good players. Like,
he's from New Orleans as well, too, so that's another good place to have.
Man, you're not lying. That's 2 fertile grounds. And the name matters. His kid isn't James Surtain. His kid has the exact same name as and I think is a Pro Bowler this year. Yep. And he was a first-round pick 2 years ago, so the Surtain name rings out among defensive backs in this country. He's also from South Florida. I don't know what you would want out of that position more. Like, what more would you want out of that position other than maybe being a Florida State guy? But Mike Norvell is not a Florida State guy. Like, I think that's about as a home run a hire as you can get for what you need from that position. That position clearly needs to coach it and be able to coach it, know the technique, but also has to be able to recruit. My man won 3 state championships at American Heritage, which is basically Miami. I think it's Plantation. It's a suburb of Miami. Yeah. It's South Florida. He's got all the connections you would want down there. I don't know what else you could want from that position. It is a recruiting position, but it's also an important position to teach. And guys want to go learn from dudes that have been there and have been in the league. You're talking about an 11-year veteran of the NFL whose kid was the number 9 overall pick 2 years ago.
And he was just at an NFL job here most recently.
Yes, I just think I just think if you were looking for boxes to check on that position, Coach, I think he checks them all. Name recognition, high school, recruiting ability. His name rings out in South Florida. His name rings out across the country for defensive backs. I mean, that's a really, really strong hire in my opinion.
Growing up, my dad used to take me to the game at the stadium. We'd watch our favorite team play, and then we'd always eat at Zaxby's. That's why it means so much to me that Zaxby's is the official chicken of college fans. To me, they go together perfectly. It reminds me of my dad and...
Oh, come on, Ref! Are you serious? Get some glasses! Terrible call!
Now I take my kids to the game, and we always eat at Zaxby's too. It's tradition.
We're proud to be the official chicken of college fans. Zaxby's, indescribably good.
And don't forget to listen in for the Zaxby's Indescribably Good Player of the Week every Monday on Wake Up Warchant.
All right, let's get to it. The Renegade Express, lots of questions. This is going to be the Georgia portion of the show. We got 3 of them, so let me kind of figure a way to weave them all together here, Corey.
Okay.
Our guy in Hawaii, Ralph, Spartan 071. Aloha, guys. How's it? UGA, impressive. They've got a ton of NFL talent on their roster, so the mindset this week around Warchant seems to be, yeah, we can hold our own, but we'd probably lose by 17 or so. But having recently watched talented guys like Ward and McClain leave and high-level guys entering the program, I wonder how many guys and at what positions are we away from having a real shot at beating Georgia? Then our guy, Nullboy02, basically wants to know about the comparisons between Stetson Bennett and Chris Weinke. Everyone calling Stetson an old man. What would it be like if Weinke was around this time of age with social media? Would people have been harping on his age? And then our guy Mark in Naples was a little bit curious, a little bit dubious about Kirby's final top 25. He does get a vote on the coaches poll. He put Florida State 18th. Oregon State, Tulane, Clemson, Notre Dame, Oregon, LSU, K-State. I mean, a whole bunch of teams ahead of FSU. What's with that? That's kind of a joke and an embarrassment to his obligation as a voter. Feel free to pick apart, or not pick apart, but rather explore any sort of aspect. I think when it comes to Ralph asking about, how many guys are transferring in and out, are we away from having a real shot at beating Georgia? If you have an elite quarterback, probably elite running back, your wide receivers are close enough. I wonder if your offensive line is elite to be able to hang with Georgia. I feel like the defensive line probably is to give Georgia's offensive line a fit. But then linebacker and parts of your secondary might not quite be at that level, I feel like. So all offensive line, linebacker, and maybe just one other special defensive back would help turn the tide on that. But 17 probably not. Closer than 17.
But it's also, that's this team. That's the 2022 season. I don't know. We have no idea what Georgia's going to be in 2023. Clearly they're going to be good, but you're breaking in a new quarterback. You're losing the best player in the country at defense, the best defensive lineman in the country, and one of the best corners in the country. Now, it's reload, not rebuild in Athens right now, but you never know, man. There could be a speed bump. And this particular Florida State team on a neutral site, I'm talking about 2023, with the 2023 Georgia team, you shouldn't be afraid of it. Of course, Georgia would be favored. You'd have to play pretty well to win, but they're not going to be unbeatable. This isn't some unbeatable juggernaut. This isn't the 95 Cowboys. They have you have enough talent now, old man talent, getting to the Chris Weinke, Stetson Bennett thing. Like Jordan Travis is going to be 23?
Yeah, at least
24. I mean, Fabian Lovett's going to be 23. You have men on your team. Georgia's got some really good players that are going to make a lot of money playing football, but they're 19 or 20. You've got dudes that are 22 or 23 that have been in college football for 4 or 5 years. That is a big deal. That is a big deal. That's how you compete with Georgia. Their top end, their potential is vastly superior to pretty much everybody else. But they're not there as redshirt freshmen. They're not what they're going to be. That's when you get them. That's how Florida State's basketball team could go into Cameron and beat a bunch of 5-star Duke basketball players because they had a bunch of 22-year-old men on their team. And they're playing really talented guys, but they're playing 19-year-olds. Or they're playing 18-year-olds. You know, it's Austin Rivers versus Luke Laux and Davis Dulkes. Well, they won that game. I think I wouldn't shy away from that now, man. I don't think the difference is the program. But this particular Florida State team, I don't think it should be scared of any team in 2023. You've got all the makings. Yes, you're not great at linebacker. You're good. You're decent. Maybe you're not great at safety. You've got two dudes that have played a lot of football. Shaheem Brown, I think, could be a player. Hakeem Dent's played a lot of football. You might be bringing in somebody else. And I would say, man, I was thinking about this today. Jared Verse, right now, is he a 5-star talent?
Yes.
All right. What about Fintrell Cypress?
Yes.
Jordan Travis?
Yes.
Trey Benson?
Yeah.
That's 4 or 5 stars right there, plus Jeremiah Byers, Braden Fisk. I mean, if you're going by the portal rankings, those are 5-star guys. Jaheim Bell, close. Johnny Wilson, close. Man, you've got high 4-star that maybe they're playing above what their high school rankings were, but Jordan Travis is a 5-star player right now, so is Jared Verse. What were those guys ranked out of high school? They weren't Marvin Jones Jr., but they're both better than him right now. So, yeah, I think I know that was a long answer, but I think Florida State, this 1 year, can compete with anyone in the country. And let's just focus on that, because obviously 2024 is going to be a whole different scenario. But I think in 2023, you should not be afraid of anyone the way this roster has been constructed.
Let's pivot and then come back to those other kind of 2 Georgia-related questions. GC_Nole, longtime listener, first-time posting, currently in Cumming, Georgia, right down the road from Corey, originally from Hialeah. Most famous people from my hometown are Casey of Casey and the Sunshine Band.
Oh, that's nice.
Ted Hendricks as well.
Cumming, Georgia is where Shanna worked for a good long while as a teacher. Well, not that long, let's be honest, but a few years in Cumming. So anyway, so in Hialeah, that's
to the question we go. Corey, you mentioned you're not afraid of Georgia next year, 2023. My comment.
Oh, that's crazy. Did he just write this? Is he listening live?
No, but it kind of dovetails a little bit into his question here. I'm trying to do a decent segue. Future football schedules. I've heard you guys say that, you don't like the home-and-home matchups of some of these bigger teams like Alabama and Georgia. Corey, being one of them, says we should do away with these games. But now with our resurgence this year and the expansion to a 12-team playoff, Corey, do you now look forward to hosting the Tide in 2025, or do you still want those games removed from future schedules? Again, you got Bama in 25 and 26, Georgia 27 and 28. This resurgence here, I mean, I know 28's a long ways away. Yeah. Even 25 maybe feels a little bit far away. But do you kind of reconsider your stance on those non-conference games now that we're seeing some real true fruits kind of pay off from the hard work that Mike Norvell's done here? I am now. I was totally with you. I'm like, I don't want no part of those games. Now I'm like, well, you know what? Okay. All right. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the 12-team playoff helps. Also the fact that, Florida State doesn't look like it would get embarrassed. Yeah. I mean, when I was complaining about those things, I was thinking there's a pretty good chance Florida State could be on a new coach in his second year, and you're playing Nick Saban. Awesome. What a wonderful way to start the season. But if Norvell's here in 2025 and he's got this thing rolling, then I have no issue with it. Plus, you do get some runway now with the 12-team playoff, the expanded playoff. You're not going to get dinged at all for losing to Alabama. You're not going to get dinged at all for losing to Georgia. It's cool for the fans. It really is. Like I think I have turned my opinion around on that. But ask me again August of 2025, and I might have a completely different viewpoint.
On Stetson Bennett and Chris Weinke, I know social media wasn't around in 97, 8, 9, 2000. But, man, that was talked about a lot because I think the Stetson Bennett thing kind of creeps up on people. Like, it has to be pointed out that, hey, man, he's this old. But everybody realized that Chris Weinke passed up going to college, tried to be a professional baseball player, then pivoted to this career now in college. So it was a big part of the sort of conversation around him. So I don't think he'd probably been more of a meme if Twitter had been around at that point, but people definitely harped on his age.
Oh, absolutely. And I think it's the reason he didn't win the Heisman by much more. I think people held it against him.
Yeah.
That was a talking point. It was a lot of articles written about it. You'd have to go on microfilm to find them because it was from the 90s. But yeah, he got, that he won the Heisman, but that was certainly something that was always brought up, is that he's almost 30 years old. I think the difference, though, is that, Chris Weinke wasn't in college for 7 years.
Yeah.
He was in college for the normal amount of time. It's just there was a gap of, 8 years? 7 years where he played minor league baseball, 6 years, something like that, where he played minor league baseball. Stetson Bennett was in college the whole time.
Yeah,
that's the difference. But yeah, man, I saw somebody tweet. I think it was the former Georgia DB, and he's 24 years old. Richard LeConte, I think is how you pronounce his name. He was really good there. He's like, because he was saying all this talk about Stetson Bennett. Chris Weinke won the Heisman at 28 years old, and nobody said a word about that. And I'm like, what are you, high? Yeah, they did, and you weren't alive, so how would you know? It was a talking point. Every time he played, they brought up how old he was, because it was a unique story. They did the same thing to a lesser extent because he wasn't as good. The Brandon Whedon kid at Oklahoma State, remember he played minor league baseball for 4 years, so he was an older guy when his last year at Oklahoma State. So yeah, man, it's just an odd story. But look, Florida State's going to have one of the oldest quarterbacks in the country next year. I have to imagine. I don't know his exact birth date, but again, won't Jordan be 24? 23?
College football in 2018, man. So if he was 18 then, do the math.
He's at least 23.
He's 22. He was born in 2000, according to Wikipedia, but we don't have a day and date.
Okay. So he'll be 23 at some point when he's playing. So, I mean, that's, I think you're going to see a lot more of it, gang.
And then on Kirby, the only thing I was going to say about his poll, maybe he doesn't, he wants to lift up SEC teams and have them ranked high, and then maybe not necessarily other teams he's going to be competing against. But Clemson's a team, but maybe Clemson got ranked high because, maybe he gives them some sort of, you've been around and done well for the last 4 or 5 years. But Oregon State, Tulane, Oregon, K-State, Utah, Washington, you rank those teams ahead of Florida State because you're never going to really go heads up on a recruit with them. That's one thing I could think about, but maybe it's just he doesn't have a lot of respect for the ACC.
Well, and I think that's it. I also think it's not none of those are like maybe outlandish. Like, didn't Tulane finish 12-2 and beat USC? Like, I probably would have ranked them ahead of Florida State. I honestly would have ranked Clemson ahead of Florida State. They had the same number of losses, and one team beat the other team.
No, you wouldn't have. Not the way they finished
absolutely,
the season.
I would have.
Really?
Absolutely, I would. I mean, it's not like, and look, man, you guys know who I'm rooting for. You know where my bread is buttered. But it's not like Florida State rolled through their final 2 games of the season. And those two teams were barely bowl teams. Yeah. So it's awesome that they won 6 in a row. I'm truly fired up about this season coming up. But they had the same record as Clemson, and Clemson beat them. Like, all right, okay, you know what I mean? Like, we're not talking about number 4 and number 5. Maybe then I would have a different tune. But when you're talking about ranking them 9th and 10th or 10th and 11th, it's like, all right. And didn't Florida State finish 10th in the coaches poll, right?
Yep.
Hey, so screw you, Kirby. Didn't matter. You could have ranked Florida State 100th. They're still top 10, baby.
Old dads and old, wake up. With the days of Coach Bowden's home visits long gone, can you guys rank what you think drives high school recruiting these days? Now, these are the options he gave us. Is it their love of the school? Is it NIL? Is it the chance to win a championship, or is it an X factor? Thanks, guys. Old dad.
Ooh, what do you think the X factor is?
Well, he's just saying, he was saying anything else, because the weather, the party town aspect, I guess your co-ed population, things like that.
Yeah. I feel like Florida State gets high marks on those.
Oh, yeah. The X factors were really through the roof.
The roof.
They talk about relationships, Corey, right? They keep talking about everything's about relationships. I don't know if that folds into being a fan of love of the school, but I think NIL is like a close second. I don't think NIL is not for enough of them. For some, but not enough. I mean, they have to like the coaches. They have to like the town. They have to like that locker room and the culture. They have to have some sort of tie to who's going to be around them all the time to make the money worth it. But then I think NIL is for sure number 2, and then it's probably a huge gap 3, 4, 5 when you're thinking about the X factor. I think it's 1 is the relationship with your coach, and then just behind it, just a touch behind it's the NIL, and then a huge drop off to all the other variables. What do you think, Corey?
Yeah, probably. It's just I need to get a handle on it, and I don't know how I'm going to do it. Like where I can talk about it publicly about NIL in high school recruiting. Like how much of a factor is it? Like what kind of numbers are we talking about? Like I don't know what a 3-star offensive lineman is getting offered. I just don't. And so
what was the thing in Texas that like all the offensive linemen, did they get 5 or 50,000? 50,000.
I thought it was 50 grand. Yeah, so, but I don't know if like they're getting offered 30. I don't know if they're getting offered 150. I don't know. So it's hard to even give a hypothetical about what's the most important. I know that, if I was 17 or 18 years old and one school was offering me 200 grand, the other school was offering me 20 grand, I don't care what my relationship is with the other coach. If you're offering me 10 times the amount of money, I don't know how you know what I mean? Like your relationship with that coach might not be worth $180,000 to you. So,
how many instances are there out there where somebody's
exactly.
I
don't even know.
That's
what I meant to articulate. I don't even know how much that even comes up. Like I don't even know how often it becomes a bidding war. No. I can't imagine most of these players are in their bidding wars for these guys. Yeah, there's going to be a bidding war for Arch Manning, or the running back that went to Texas. There might be a bidding war for those guys, or Hakeem Williams even. But the normal, guy that's ranked 212th in the country, or the guy that's ranked the 44th best player in Florida, I don't know what those bidding wars are like. I assume you're just talking about a few grand. So I don't know.
All right.
So, but it's definitely not what it was 15 years ago or even 7 years ago.
All right. Let's look at the future here. We'll bundle these next three. They're all pretty to the point, so I'll read them all here in succession, Corey. Brave Nole 12, wake up, cannot believe how quickly things have turned around. Getting to the ACC Championship now seems to be our floor. Realistically, how far do you guys think we can go? He thinks a 4th national title would not surprise him at all, he says. Nole for life, class of 2007. The hype train has left the station. Our beloved Noles are looking great. That said, my eternal pessimism is wondering what could go wrong. So let's spin it forward. If we're not ACC champions, what would have went wrong? And then teacher Nole, is it 2023 or bust? When I look at the roster from 23 to 24, the last time we lost that much talent, in my opinion, in one offseason was between 2000 and 2001.
Or 14 and 15.
No.
That was a mass exodus of really good players. Good point. Yeah, let's attack that one first.
Okay.
Because I think that is a genuine concern for Florida State fans. Is yes, they look, and I was just talking about it for this one season, they can compete with anyone in the country. I don't think anybody listening to this should shy away from that or disagree with that. How could you? They have a lot of talent coming back.
They're preseason top 5. Sorry, Corey. They're preseason top 5 in all these polls that are coming out right now.
So clearly they're going into the season as one of the best in the country with a great quarterback. It's not like you're having to replace somebody. You know what you got coming back. But that's the big if, is not the if, but that's the real big question mark is what about 2024? Because all those people I just mentioned that were 5 stars are probably all gone. And you just don't know what you have coming up behind them. Maybe you've evaluated very well, and maybe you're developing at a great rate. Maybe you're developing. We won't know until this season, this 2023 season. But I can understand if not a lot of younger stars bubble to the surface in 2023, there's going to be some real hand-wringing in December of this year about, man, what's it going to look like in 2024? The portal can only do so much. But then again, there is the portal. And you can go get probably just about any quarterback you want. If Jordan Travis has another year like he did this year, that speaks for itself. There are going to be guys all across the country that will want to come play at Florida State, especially if Florida State finishes with, 10, 11, 12 wins, top 10 again in the country, competing for a championship. That's going to, the allure of that, the appeal of the offense. I think that's the beauty, man. It's like you can go sign a free agent. It doesn't have to be Tate Rodemaker or Brock Glenn or AJ Duffy. It could be, it very well could be, but it doesn't have to be. You can go get somebody to replace a Trey Benson. You can go get you can go get another All-American defensive end. They're all going to be out there. All the toys that you want are going to be out there. It's just a matter of getting them to come to campus. Right now, that you can get them to campus because they're on campus. They're here. They're going to play for you. It's just, you have to recycle it next year. But I don't think it falls off a cliff, right? That's the beauty of the portal.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to fall off a cliff, but can it be sustained to what it is now? That's the real question. That's the real question I guess we'll find out. But it's a legitimate worry, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I've said, like, I don't want to say it's all or nothing next season, but again, you think about that quarterback and the pass rushers and the guys on the defensive line and your offensive linemen, and you're like, man, can they keep going to the portal and finding these gems every single year? And at what point are other teams going to also be like, they figured it out in Tallahassee, why are we not doing the same thing? All of our money, let's invest it in getting these kids out of the portal. There's no shame in doing it that way.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think that's what makes 23 that much more exciting. Because I do think I'm not scared off by it. I'm more excited about the fact that everything has come together, and it's like, man, let's all go. Let's be all in on this one season and finally invest and see how it goes, like emotionally, if you will.
It's also cool though that like Florida State, you don't think they're going to be like a 1-year wonder. It's Florida State, man. This isn't like Rice coming out of nowhere, or TCU for that matter, even though TCU's had a very good program for a while. It's Florida State. So if you can stack back-to-back 10 or 11 win seasons, again, 2024 might be a dip, but it's not going to be a crash. And you can it could be a small, tiny little dip. And then 2025, you're right back to where your preseason top 5. I mean, we have no idea how it's going to work. Right. But winning begets winning. Winning seasons beget more winning seasons because good players beget more good players. If Florida State's on TV and they're in the top 10 and they're winning games a lot and they're in the public consciousness and they're in the national consciousness, recruits take notice. Portal kids take notice. And they will keep coming. If you build a winner, they will come. Florida State has proven that over the last 4 decades. When they're good, people want to play for them. And this should be 2 years in a row when they're very good. So that should include an influx, as we've seen in the last month, an influx of really good players wanting to play here. So that's the beauty. That's the good part.
All right, so then Brave Nole 12 and then Nole for life 2007. So how far can they go? I mean, I think playoff, because maybe you're the first 2-loss team to make the playoff. Like if you lose at LSU and you lose a close one to Clemson, but you get revenge against Clemson in the conference championship game, and say LSU is undefeated and they're the number 1 team in the nation, maybe you can sneak in there and be like the 3rd or 4th team in the playoff. I think playoff is legitimate because just we see how they played to finish the season out and what they're bringing back and what's going on around this conference. Now, if they don't compete for a playoff, if they don't win the conference, I think if they don't win the conference, we'll say problem potentially. If they don't make the playoff, we won't call it a problem. Like, what would have gone wrong? It's going to be like that complacency, the stuff between the ears and the locker room kind of creating an issue, right? Like guys thinking like maybe I'm not getting enough catches, I'm not getting enough looks, I'm not getting enough attempts to rush the passer. Like that's the only, outside of like injuries, and injuries like the old standby, I just can't imagine this offense takes a step back and just can't figure out ways to score 30 points on good teams. And I can't think of this defense just absolutely turning into like a quagmire. And again, we probably said this about other teams on the schedule for last year that were going to we thought beat Florida State, and they did not. But what are some of the things you think would be pitfalls in the lead up to a 2023 season that would elicit this scenario, Corey?
Yeah. So is the question like, what would be a disappointment? How would they miss? How would they not win the
what
conference
went wrong?
championship?
If Florida State is not the ACC championships in 2023, what went wrong?
I mean, I would just think, you're not going to play great 12 straight weeks. You're just not. So we're saying that they've got 8 conference games. If you don't play great in 2 of them and you happen to lose both of them, well, that's what happens. Like there's a good chance if you play 8 conference games, you're going to not play well in 1 or 2 of them. You still have to find a way to win those games, and you better hope one of them or both of them aren't Clemson, right?
Right.
Like you could play Clemson, lose to them in Death Valley, then play them in Charlotte and lose again. There's no real shame in that necessarily, but I can understand there'll be plenty of frustration. But you might just not play well. You've got to play. When you don't have your A game, you still got to win. I don't know how often I guess they did that a couple times this year. Oklahoma, they didn't play great, and they found a way to win. Florida too, for that matter. Yeah. So that was good to see. Actually, I was just lamenting those 2 games, but both of those games kind of reminded me like they felt like they were going the way of the Wake and Clemson games. And yet they righted the ship. The defense got a couple of stops when it mattered, and the offense righted the ship and kept scoring at will in the second half of both those games. That was good to see. So maybe that was learned, because you've got to be able to find a way, even when you're not blowing teams out by 45 points, even when things are not going well for you and they're going against you. You find a way to win. So I know that's a dumb answer, but they're good enough. Injuries, I mean, look, man, injuries to me is the main thing. I think if they're mostly healthy, if they avoid bad injury luck, they should win 11 games, 10 or 11 games. If their offense stays mostly healthy, and all the guys that really matter, play to their ability, you're going to have one of the 5 best offenses in the country. Your defense should be good enough to win at least 10 or 11 games and get. So if that doesn't happen, you might have injury luck. You might have awful turnover luck against, I don't know, one of the 2 ACC teams that can beat you.
New year, 2023, new you. Give yourself a fresh start over at mybookie.ag. Whether you bet to earn or to make the games more exciting, MyBookie gives you the most for your money with their redesigned deposit bonus. Just use the promo code WARCHANT on a deposit of $50 or more to receive a cash bonus instantly to your MyBookie account. Using the bonus is simple. You just got to bet your deposit amount just once, and then you're ready to cash out. No strings attached with MyBookie. It's NFL wildcard weekend, maybe the best weekend of professional football in the entire year. Let's look at 2 games here, Corey. Chargers-Jags. In Duval, Jags getting 2.5 at home against the Chargers. Thoughts?
So the Jags are home, right?
Yeah.
It's not like the Chargers have a great history of winning big games and making postseason runs.
Correct.
I feel like the Jags might feel like they have a little magic juice. And plus, I think the fact that they're in the playoffs at all, like they're going to feel like they're playing with house money. Kind of nothing to lose. We're 1 year ahead of schedule anyway. Here goes nothing. Let's just throw caution to the wind. I like the Jags, baby. Right. I like the Jags. Let's go, Duval. Stand up.
Miami at Buffalo. Miami getting 13. I think they'll be maybe Teddy Bridgewater, maybe Skylar Thompson, or whoever their third-string quarterback is. Tua has been ruled out. Or do you want to go with the total points, 43.5? I mean, I could see I could see like 38-7, and that gets you over. I
was gonna say, man, I can't. How would the Dolphins stay within 2 touchdowns? How is that even possible?
Yeah.
With that guy, I watched that. If it's Skylar Thompson playing by the way, that was one thing I noticed. All these, and I throw myself into the mix here. Like I was like, I don't know if Jordan Travis can play at the next level. I don't know what his future is. Well, I know he's better than Skylar Thompson. I gosh darn guarantee it that he's better than Skylar Thompson. So if that dude can make a roster, Jordan Travis definitely can make a roster. So either way, no. So back to the point, I would say
keep away from Miami. Just run the ball.
I still think I don't know about the over under. I'd stay away from that, but I like the Bills to win by more than 13.5 points.
There we go, everybody. MyBookie.ag. Use that promo code WARCHANT for your instant cash bonus. Eric, Tallahassee. Let's go. Knoll 43. What are you guys looking forward to most during the offseason until spring practice rolls around in a couple months? I'm looking forward to maybe like another big-time portal acquisition. Otherwise, yeah, I mean, I don't know. Basketball's not going to help pass the time in a positive manner. They've got their defensive vacancy filled, so for me, it's like I don't know. Let's get a nasty linebacker. I think I'd rather have that more so than a ball hawking safety. I want another dude at linebacker. That's what I'm most looking forward to, seeing maybe the shoe drop on that, Corey. You?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the beauty is like everything else is filled. I guess we got another National Signing Day coming up, but that's absolutely anticlimactic. I don't even know if they're going to sign a kid. And then so I would say, yeah, just the eyes on the portal, seeing if there's 1 or 2 more guys out there. But again, I think that gets fun again after spring practice. So I don't know when that portal window opens up again. There is another one, though, right, that comes after the spring. Yep. So I don't know how much more is even out there. Hey, you know what? It doesn't matter. Just stay tuned to warchant.com. Become a subscriber. We're going to make stuff interesting, even if it's not interesting for the next couple months. We're going to find a way. And also, Tanaya Latson and the women's basketball team is fun.
Yeah. Island Chief, wake up. You guys bring it every week. And for that, I say thank you. Thank you, Island Chief.
Hey, and you know what? You're welcome.
Yeah. I was curious. I had some time. I went back and listened to Renegade Express from January 21st. I'm guessing of 21 or 22. Milton and Johnson were the hot topics, and that Norvell was the portal king. Turns out he was just scratching the surface. Who's Johnson? I almost don't want to say that out loud. Did they get a recruit with the last name of Johnson? I shouldn't have said it out loud, but I did. Don't, Corey, you didn't even hear me say it. I'm going to keep going.
Okay. All right. Okay.
You're absolved. Question. Do you have any sense that NIL deals or lack thereof are what's behind guys transferring out, or is it just reps?
No, I would think it's just. I would just think it's reps. I don't think like the NIL deal for Rodney Hill was somehow better than Trayshawn Ward's NIL offer. I think that it's about Trayshawn Ward having 1 year left and wanting to go get a lot of carries his last year of college football. Instead of getting 9 a game, he can go get 18 a game at Kansas State. And I don't think anybody begrudges him of that. So I think it's more about playing time and not necessarily because when you're talking about not the Johnny Wilson level or the Trey Benson level, when you're at the Kentron Portier, Malik McClain level, it's not a ton of money, guys. I can't imagine I know I'm a little ignorant when it comes to it. I just can't imagine it's a ton of money. So I do think it's more about, and I also don't think Malik McClain's like getting big time money now that he's on the open market. I just think it's more about fit and a chance to play.
XDQ004, it's our guy Derek. Wake up. Watching George on Monday night, I could not help but think of what could have been if we had Amarius Mims. He would certainly help us win both the Wake Forest and NC State games, in my opinion. Question. Thinking about this upcoming season, who would you like to see take a leap to where their improved play would almost guarantee an ACC championship and a playoff berth? My pick, Derek, is Robert Scott. What say you? What's the one player core that could take a leap and would almost guarantee a conference championship and a playoff berth? I mean, I don't want to say Patrick Payton, but he did pretty well. Like, if you've got two just demons on the edges, or
because
does Renardo Green have to become Tay Cody or Jalen Ramsey, just be just some lockdown?
Oh man,
corner?
he was good. He was plenty good to be on a playoff team.
Shaheem takes a leap, becomes.
I was
going to
say there aren't that many positions that have that kind of impact. I do think a defensive end opposite verse that becomes an all ACC caliber player, which Patrick Payton could make a leap into that. If you've got two bookends like that, that could be a difference maker. I don't know. Maybe Johnny Wilson. Like, what if Johnny goes from being Johnny Wilson essentially won you 2 games this year. He flat out won you the Louisville game, and he pretty much won you the Oklahoma game. What if he becomes a guy that doubles that? What if he
Calvin
has
Johnson.
4 games like that or 6 games like that? That could be a guy that finishes with 1,600 yards receiving and 15 touchdowns, whatever.
Yeah, where you're on that last drive in Raleigh against NC State, and you're looking at him the whole time. Like, he's part of the plan. He's not an afterthought.
Yeah, I mean, maybe something like that. That a special receiver, and he could be that guy, but a special receiver or a special defensive end are my 2 picks as guys that could, if they took a huge leap. And Johnny's already good, but if he became great, or Patrick Payton became great, that could be a difference.
All right. Random_John, good morning, guys. Baba Miller finally played. Well, Wake Forest happened. Let's say Cleveland and Mills are gone next year. What moves can Hamilton really make to make this roster competitive? Also, Mrs. Random_John is having foot Achilles surgery on Friday. I guess kicking my butt took its toll. She'll be laid up for 2 weeks. As such, she will definitely be joining Warchant this week. All right.
Oh, there you go. Well, welcome.
Yeah.
Sorry that you had to have surgery. He said foot Achilles surgery?
Yeah, on Thursday, actually, yesterday. So hope she's...
what does that mean? Isn't it just an Achilles surgery, or did she do... Maybe she screwed up her foot, too?
Well, I guess he was specifying. She's having surgery on her foot, specifically her Achilles.
Oh, well, okay. Yeah, that's a big recovery, man. That's like a year long. So good luck with that. I thought Stephanie had done that?
Yeah.
When she was playing tennis?
Oh,
Because she even said, she goes, who just threw a ball at me and hit me in the back of the leg? I'm like, oh, God. I've been doing this so long. I'm gonna have to. Number one, I'm gonna have to pick her up off this tennis court because she won't be able to move, and she's gonna be out for the next year. Immediately I start thinking about myself. But yeah, no, it was just she had done. It wasn't an Achilles; it was something else. But yeah, when she thought a ball had hit her in the back of the leg, I'm like, oh God, no. So yeah, good luck with the surgery. And what was about Leonard?
Hoops.
So the portal, man. I don't know how else to say it. The portal. I mean, you've got. If Cleveland and Mills leave,
go to international. We need to become Team Europe.
Yeah, but even the international kids, they're not going to come in ready-made. Go get some guys that are ready-made to come and compete and play. I think
there's no battle's end for basketball, though, Corey. And that's the thing. I thought that was the whole perk about getting kids from overseas, that they're not. NIL doesn't apply to them. Like, they cannot.
No, it doesn't. But you are still going to be an ACC team, an ACC caliber team that can get good players for. Like, you can go get a Darren Green Jr. who wants to play at a bigger conference. Okay. So he played at UCF and was good. Yeah. But now he's at Florida. He wanted to go play at Florida State. You can go still handpick those guys, or a guy like Cameron Fletcher who was at Kentucky and just wasn't getting a lot of run. He's still going to want to go play in the ACC. I think Florida State can sell itself there. Clearly, if you've been paying attention to the way they've been recruiting the high school ranks the last couple of years, after killing it until NIL came along, absolutely killing it. Oh. The Scotty Barneses, the Patrick Williams, on and on and on. They were doing great. And then all of a sudden that's dried up because NIL happened. But I think in the portal maybe it would be a little different for guys from mid-major schools. You can go get a star from a mid-major that just is playing above. He's outplayed where he is. I think that's your best chance. Or get Cleveland to stay. I think he should stay. But credit to that kid, man. I know they got bombarded on Wednesday night. They got blown out. They're not good defensively. Bobby Miller can't help that much. But Matthew Cleveland had 19 and 12. It's the 6th straight double-double. He's the first Florida State guy to do that since my birth year. Since 1970 something. I'm not going to tell you guys how old I am. Don't worry about it. I look like I'm 27. I could play 33.
That's right.
It's been like almost 50 years since Florida State's had a guy that had 6 straight double-doubles. And Matthew Cleveland, I remember texting Ira about it earlier in the season. Like, I was texting his rebounding numbers because he was averaging like 2.9 rebounds a game. And I'm like, this is ridiculous. This is a joke. Yeah. A kid that athletic, that's 6'7", went a whole game, played 29 minutes, and had 1 rebound. And then Cameron Fletcher, who was the team's leading rebounder, gets hurt, and Cleveland flips a switch, which it'd been nice if he'd have done that in November, but it's really cool to see him playing like this. Like, he is almost selfish with his rebounding. Like, he jumps in front of teammates to get rebounds. But that's awesome. You can't be selfish rebounding. Yeah. You're going for the basketball. Whether it's to get another double-double or not, I don't care. As long as you're trying to go get the basketball, that's good enough for me, man. So credit to him. They did not play well. They can't guard. They certainly couldn't guard that team. But yeah, and I am. These last 15 games will be interesting for Bobby Miller. You hope he gets acclimated, and then next year, him and Cleveland coming back. If Bobby can have some nice moments and feel good, maybe you have a chance to make a run if you get some other pieces.
JR Knoll 86, wake up. Was hoping next time you guys get a chance to talk to Adam Fuller, you could ask him about home crowd noise in Doak. Seems like most of our coverage busts happened at home against Clemson and Florida on shifts and misalignments, and with all this up-tempo spread offenses, they've got their communications down. Seems like defenses don't. Should home crowds rethink getting loud pre-snap when their team is on defense against these modern offenses?
No, but it's a good question. A better question than people listening to that probably think. Because I remember in 2013 or 14, I guess it was 13, I think I asked Terrence Brooks about it. Like, because they were getting ready to play Miami. And I'm like, man, people always want the crowd to be loud because they think it affects the offense, and it does. It can rattle them. But you guys can't communicate. Like, it's obviously much easier for safeties and linebackers to communicate on the road when the opposing crowd is being quiet than at home where they can't hear themselves. And he did say, yeah, that's something we have to practice. But they don't practice. One thing they could do, Aslan, now that I'm talking about this out loud, when they have a home game, they don't practice with the sound up, with the crowd noise.
They do music. They do music home game weeks. crowd noise and they're preparing for a road game.
But crowd noise like to a deafening degree.
Yes.
In the IPF. Well, they don't do that during home weeks. Maybe they should rethink that part of it, because you certainly don't want to. You don't want to on third down. It's third down, guys. Be quiet. But you don't want to do that. You don't want to have that on the
defense,
like a guy doing
defense at work is like at the RCA Dome when Peyton Manning's with the Colts. Like, offense at work, be quiet. Now they're gonna have defense at work.
Yeah, they'll flash like Jared Verse doing like a shush, like a librarian when it's third down. You're not going to want to do that to the crowd. They want to make noise. They want to impact the game. But maybe during practice weeks for a big game, not that they're going to have a ton of great home games this year to worry about it. You do maybe want to practice the defense community. It's a good question. I'll ask Fuller about that. Like, how do you communicate when they can't hear each other? They have to. It's hand signals and just hope. But that's a good point. Most of their breakdowns were at home.
What if the crowd just was silent pre-snap, but as soon as the ball got snapped, they just went nuts? Kind of like, the student section during a free throw. They'll be quiet or something, right. And then as soon as you get ready to release, they'll go nuts.
Not when it's snapped. Right when you feel the quarterback right when the wide receiver goes in motion.
Okay. Then you're like,
or right when the quarterback's about to lift his leg.
All right. Okay.
For the snap count. That's when you get loud.
Okay. Let's do that.
Smart, though. I'm telling you, back in the day, man, you can go watch it on YouTube. I've told this story before, but Dan Marino, back in the day when I first started watching college football, they would tell the crowds to be too quiet if they were too loud because the offenses couldn't communicate. Yeah. And that was like the offense would go to the referee and say, I can't hear, and they'd have to make an announcement to tell the crowd to be quiet. Yeah. So maybe they go back to that.
My truth is up. Wake up. Our success in the portal has given me enthusiasm and confidence in the upcoming season, but not my only happiness. Schadenfreude? Is that how we say it? Yeah, you say it better.
Yeah, it was Schadenfreude.
Schadenfreude.
Yeah, close, yeah.
Also, in watching teams down south unwide and the Aggies attempt to create a staff that could possibly be more toxic than Chernobyl. Is it probable that Jaden Rashada was offered a $13.5 million deal? Is it possible?
That's the quarterback that wants
Florida.
Is he out of his NIL deal with Florida or not?
No, apparently he's requested it, but maybe there's some pushback on whether that really has happened or not.
Who offered it to him?
Florida, their collective.
So Florida offered that kid 13.
Allegedly.
That's the rumor?
Allegedly. Yeah.
I would say that's asinine.
Yeah, I can't imagine. Like, maybe
I'm not saying the question is asinine. If that number is anywhere close to accurate, that is absolutely asinine. That's ridiculous. How you have no idea what that kid is going to be. None. Like, who are you competing against? I don't know. That's again, it would make sense for Drake May. Like, why not just go offer that to Drake May?
Yeah.
For heaven's sake. Or Caleb Williams or Jordan Travis. Like, why go to a kid that you have no idea if he can even play at this level?
I do wonder, you hear these reports about, you're hearing all these numbers, but the numbers aren't true. They're inflated. Like, I wonder if there's accelerators. Like, could you be offered, like, listen, we'll give you $1 million, but if you win the SEC, we'll give you $3 million. And if you win the national title, we'll give you $10 million. And that's the sort. But those are the things that would be spelled out, and your family or whoever's in your corner would be looking at these contracts, because that's what these NIL deals are. They'd be looking at it. There's no way you could sneak up at the last minute after you've signed your letter of intent 2 weeks later, like, actually, you guys are, doing some funky math here with smoke and mirrors, and you're not going to give me the $13 million. I'm out. Yeah. I can't imagine. The probability of that is astronomically low. Less
what
than
what a world we live in. Either way, what a world we live in.
Armchair Osceola, wake up. Good morning. All right, this is a longer one. I should have read this beforehand, but let's just go with it. In light of the absolute dominant performance by Georgia, how do you see the confluence of NIL and playoff expansion in the portal playing out in the next 3 to 5 years? More specifically, I understand that an expanded playoff means that more teams will have a chance to play, and that could lure talent away from the top dogs. See what I did there? But what do these 5 to 12 seeds really have a chance to win a national title in light of the power of NIL?
Yeah, I mean, I just look at it differently, man. I think NIL is going to make it. I think NIL and the portal makes the parity more, not less. I mean, Georgia and Alabama can't get them all. They can't have them all. There are a lot of really good football players that the last 10 seasons played half the game for Alabama or a third of the game for Georgia. Well, now they can go play the full game for other schools, and they're good. They're really good. They might be a degree. Think about Jermaine Johnson, man. He wasn't good enough to start at Georgia, and he was a first-round pick. No, he wasn't as good, I guess, as what's the kid's name? The Jacksonville the number 1 pick.
Walker.
Walker. I guess he wasn't as good as that guy, but it's by degrees, by small degrees. And he was plenty good enough to go be an All-American somewhere else. So I just think that's what the portal and NIL have done is they are. I just think, and I might be 100% wrong. We are right in the infancy stages of this. I think it's going to make for more parity, not less parity. Yes, Alabama and Georgia are going to have really good teams and really good players. What else is new? But I think you're going to see other teams rise up, other teams in the mix. And yeah, it's going to be hard for the 12 seed to win a championship because they got to beat the 5 and then they got to beat the 1 and then they got to win another one. I get it, but they'll have a chance. And again, if you get in the playoff a couple of times as an 8 seed and a 7 seed and you show that you're a perennial playoff team, maybe the player pool that you're recruiting out of gets better because they see, oh yeah, I can go to the playoff there too. I think the NIL, as goofy as it is, as unregulated as it is, the portal and the 12-team college football playoff all coming together at a confluence like this is going to be so good for the sport because, buddy, it was as stale as could be. It was as stale as it could be the last 3 or 4 years. It's the same 5 or 6 teams all the time. Nobody else feels like they have a chance. I just think teams are going to be able to spread their wings now, and more teams are going to feel like they have a real chance. Like Ohio State should have beaten Georgia, and Ohio State lost to Michigan, and Michigan lost to TCU. You know what I mean? And TCU barely beat Baylor. Like on and on and on. Like I just think there's going to be more parity in college football now, and I'm here for it.
Yeah. Part of his question, too, is kind of the fear. We don't want to see these beatdowns like we saw Georgia against TCU, and that's an
anomaly. I just think that's an anomaly, man. Georgia would not have done that to Michigan. I think Georgia's not that much better than TCU. TCU just crapped the bed. Yeah. They just played horribly. They played worse than Kent State played against Georgia. They just urinated on themselves, and frankly, they should have just gone ahead and lost to Michigan if they were going to play like that. That was bad for college football just that one night because, good grief, that was ridiculous. It was an embarrassment. It's awesome they made the championship game. I'm sure they'll always be thought of fondly in Fort Worth, but that was an embarrassment because they're better than that, and they just completely wilted and shied away from the moment, which was disappointing to see. But either way, I don't think that's the reality. I don't think we're going to see a bunch of 65 to. I mean, think about the 2 playoff games; they were awesome.
Finally,
the 2 semifinal games.
Took a while, though, but yeah, finally.
But that's what I'm saying. The 2 semifinal games were great. It's usually the title game is pretty good and the semifinal games are awful. Well, those 2 semifinal games were great. Mm-hmm. Now imagine 4 more of those type of games, which is what it will be with the 12-team playoff. I mean, yeah, there are going to be some blowouts. There's blowouts in the NFL playoffs. There's blowout in the NBA. Super Bowls used to be blowouts all the time. But I think the way this sport is now currently constructed, it's that I don't think that's going to be the norm, 65-7. I think that was just a confluence of some weird things and one team just completely not showing up.
Yeah, they're also going to seed it to where the first 4, I guess, get a bye, or at least they get to play at home. So you're not going to see the 1 versus the 12. You're going to see whatever, 5 versus 12.
Right.
But then you think about the New Year's 6 bowls. Tulane Southern Cal was a great game. That was a really close one. But like Clemson Tennessee was kind of gross. Would that have been different if there was some real stakes up for grabs?
Of course, yeah. I think so, right? Yeah.
I'd hope so. But, Clemson didn't have guys opting out, really. I mean, I think they had a full deck in that game, and they played terrible. So, but listen.
Yeah, but I mean, it's like, what were they playing for? Like, you're going to have 12 teams you're going to have 12 teams that care instead of like 6 or 5. You're going to have all those teams are going to have their players playing. It's so good for the sport, man. It's going to be. I really can't wait for it. I can't wait for it because when you turn on a bowl now, number one, who knows when they're on? Is the Cotton Bowl on December 30th or January 5th? Who knows? Right. But when you turn on a game, you don't know who's playing. You have no idea unless you're following along. You don't know. They have to tell you before the game, okay, well, for USC, these 5 guys opted out. And for this team, 3 guys opted out. or this guy's already in the portal. This team only has 42 guys on the roster because they're either in the portal or they've quit on whatever it is. So now you're going to have 12 games that or whatever that is, 6. It's going to be like instead of 3 postseason games, you're going to have 10. I can't do the math in my head that quick. 10 or 11, whatever it is. And it's going to be fun to watch. It's going to be really good for the sport, I think.
All right, let's go into overdrive here and get to the rest of them.
Let's do it.
OBX Knoll, that's Outer Banks kids. Love you guys and what you bring to War Chant. We have had a lot of incoming transfers over the last 2 seasons. If possible, please summarize their remaining years of eligibility. Thank you. Keep up the good work. Well, that wouldn't be an easy one to get to there. It's been a mix, though, man. They haven't gone after specifically guys that only have multiple years left. They've gone after Jazz and Turntine and Dimitri Manuel, but they kind of waited longer in the process to get those guys that only had 1 year. But they seem to prioritize guys that have multiple years, Jared Verse, Jamie Robinson, and they seem to go all in after those guys. And if you watch the recruiting chat on Wednesday, Michael Langston talked about when it comes to like safety or linebacker, they're looking for somebody that has multiple years. They want to find one of those guys that freshman year, maybe it didn't work out, maybe they're not happy at that designation, at that place they picked, and they can get that kid and then have several years to kind of groom them and get them ready. So, but it's kind of across the board. We've seen them again. They've done 1 year rentals and they've done multiple year, projections with these kids. So they don't seem to have a one size fits all kind of policy. But at least early on, they go after guys with multiple years, and then as the summer wears on and they got to fill in some holes, then they'll be like, all right, we'll take you for 1 year, Jason Turntine, Dimitri Manuel, etc. So that's how I would summarize our eligibility. Moving along, Mayday Knoll. Wake up. FSU recorded 40 sacks in 2022. Since the season concluded, we have news of Jared Verse and Fabian Lovett returning, along with several additions from the portal. And considering Patrick Payton taking a possible leap in 2022, what number do you set the over-under for team sacks in 2023? Appreciate the work you do. Thanks for keeping us informed and entertained. Cannot wait for September.
I mean, I would think 40 is a good number again, right? Like that's, what is that, 3.5
that's not
game?
Fun, Corey. It's not fun. They're bringing all these dudes back and they're getting extra guys. 43.5.
Okay, well, let's make it 60. Let's make it 5 a game. I would think anything approaching 40 is good, really good. Okay, yeah.
We also think they're going to play another game. We think they're going to play in a conference title game.
True. So what do you want them to average per game though? 4? That seems like a lot.
That does.
That seems like a lot. So I think, but I mean, they averaged, they played 3 games. They averaged 3. So average 3.5.
Okay.
Give me an extra half a sack a game, Jared Verse.
1%.
That's all I'm asking.
1%. That's all Corey wants. It's 1%.
1% better every game. Please, come on.
Let's keep it in the trenches. G-Man, Noles fan. Wake up. I've listened to the show for a while, but it's my first time asking a question. I'll follow the old rules. I'm from Augusta, Georgia. The most famous person from here is probably James Brown. Is the Godfather Soul? He was from Augusta?
Yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah. And I think that's right. I mean, who else would it be? Larry Mize Jr.? I mean, he had a famous chip in at the Masters, but I don't know that. It's got to be James Brown. Yeah.
Poor Greg Norman. Do we have the best defensive line in the ACC? And is it top 10 nationally?
I don't know about the second part. Going into the season, again, understanding that we focus much more on Florida State than any other school, I just think you do. Clemson's losing some guys, and you have a potential probable first-round pick at defensive end. You've got the ACC Freshman of the Year at another defensive end spot.
Three salty defensive tackles.
Yes.
3.
One that was the best defensive tackle in the portal. Another guy that's an NFL player that's, I think, 24 years old. Is a grown man, and when he's healthy is a pretty dominant dude, plus the younger guys coming up. I would say right now on paper you do. I mean, you just can't put a price tag on having Jared Verse, Fabian Lovett, and Braden Fisk, and Darrell Jackson. Like, Darrell Jackson was a good ACC player. Not a serviceable one. Like, I think the kid they just got from South Carolina, serviceable to solid.
Yeah, Gilbert Edmond.
The defensive end, right? Darrell Jackson to me is a higher quality than that. He can be an impact player. Maybe Edmond can too. He just needs a change of scenery. But I think Darrell Jackson can be an impact player, and he's your third defensive tackle. Like, I think if he was on the team this past year, for the majority of the season, he would have been your best defensive tackle. Right? Yeah. Because Fabian didn't play, and when Fabian did play there at the end, he still clearly wasn't 100%. He would have been your best interior lineman this past year on your roster. Now he's second string. Probably anyway. That's a cool place to be, man. So, yeah, they've got depth. They've got elite talent. They've got a first-round talent.
Special guys.
Yeah, they got a special guy. Maybe Peyton turns into something special too, but you've got one special guy, and you've got a lot of depth of talent, man, and a lot of experience. So, I think so right now. Getting myself psyched up just talking about it.
Let's go. S-Rod, I thought it was 1898. S-Rod, 1998. Not a lot of love for Duffy when the staff talks about him. You guys watch practice and are clear that he is not ready. He puts that in quotation marks, not ready. Was he not a 4-star? And if so, does this lack of readiness mean we missed? Hoping that's not the case. Hope Brock Glenn's a real deal. But outside of Jordan's spectacular development under Dillingham and Norvell, are we happy with the quarterback recruiting process?
I mean, well, let's throw Tokar's in there too now. Like, Jordan really took off under Tokar's this past year. That was he's a different, for starting in the LSU game, he just looked like a different guy. Going to Duffy, I just want to qualify and couch everything I say and understand that I don't know what a true freshman quarterback is supposed to look like. We're lucky enough to watch practice. I didn't get to see Jameis every day in 2012. I didn't get to see EJ in 2008 or 9, whenever, 9 maybe. So I don't know what a guy that's going to turn out to be really good looks like when he first starts. That said, no, he was not ready. But I don't think that's abnormal. He's a true freshman. And he was playing with third stringers, and he wasn't getting a ton of reps. So maybe if he got more reps, he would look more comfortable. But, yeah, I don't know that it's a whiff because, part of the deal here is developing. It's developing. I mean, I can't even imagine what Jordan Travis looked like his first year at Louisville.
Right.
You know what I mean? I just can't imagine. I'm sure it probably looked a lot like what AJ Duffy just looked like. So there's a lot of, let me say this, there's a lot of room for improvement. I have not completely given up on the kid by any stretch. Yeah. I just, because how could you? He's been here a year and he was third string. But yeah, I clearly in my opinion, he's number 3 on the depth chart. And that's kind of how it should be. There's a Heisman candidate in front of him and a guy that's been here, going on his fourth year now.
Fourth year. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how he progresses in the spring, but also he knows he's not going to be the starting quarterback. And then Brock Glenn enters, so that's even some fewer snaps. Because Luke Altmaier was their guy. That was a guy that he went and found Mike Norvell before anybody did. They got his first offer, and then slowly everybody started offering that kid. And he left Ole Miss. Lane Kiffin's pretty good at developing quarterbacks, and that didn't work out, and he's gone. So if they would have brought Altmaier here, there's reasonable evidence to suggest that he would have been a miss, and he would have probably left here as well. And if Duffy doesn't work out, then you kind of start thinking, all right, well, they maybe need to start tinkering around and figuring out a little bit better. But it's still way too early on. But that's something that we'll have to look for in the spring as we're covering a team that's going to be preseason top 5.
Well, exactly. Well, and Tate Rodemaker definitely got better. That was not just a one-half wonder against Louisville. We told you that in August. He looked like a different dude. And the guy in the second half against Louisville is the guy we saw a lot of in August. So he definitely improved. And then also, man, I'll keep coming back to it. Kind of doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how you develop high school quarterbacks. You can go get yourself one. You can go get yourself a guy that starred 2 years at Akron or Kentucky or wherever, NC State. You can go get yourself a guy that's already proven at this level. If AJ Duffy isn't it, if Tate Rodemaker or Brock Glenn don't end up being great, you can go get yourself a really good one because that's the world we live in.
All right, we're almost there. These are all sort of NIL family-related questions. Nole Dad for life. Wake up, gents. Wouldn't want to spend this hype-filled offseason with anyone else. Love what Battle's End is doing with NIL and player retention. However, we don't hear about Rising Spear anymore. Have I missed something? Our guy Gator Kirk, wake up. If you were to donate money to one entity, would you donate to a collective or would you become a booster? And then Niner Knoll. With the advent of collectives, could we find ourselves in a position where they are dictating who is going to be on the team by who they sign? No. I mean, they're not allowed to communicate directly with the coaching staff and vice versa.
Right.
But everybody, we're adults here,
Right.
Me personally, I think I'm a very instant gratification guy, so collective falls more in line with that. It depends on how much money I had. If I had like $500,000, that'd probably be a booster because it would be some sort of capital project, and it'd be cool to have like my brick or like my name on a brick on a building. I like that for my ego more so than like, oh yeah, see that guy who caught that touchdown in the Florida game? My money went to getting him. But if I only had like $5,000, I'd probably give it to a collective. It'd probably go a little bit further. And then the first one, I don't know. Rising Spear's doing everything. So they're doing like 9 sports over 200 athletes. But I think the presumptive theory was like Battle's End was going to work on retention and Rising Spear was going to work on acquisition, but that does not seem to be the case. But Rising Spear's still out there. They're still doing important things. Maybe Tanaya Latson is something the Rising Spear is focusing in on. But thoughts on NIL, Corey? Will there ever be a time where a collective dictates the roster of a team? And your thoughts on what you would give if you were if you had money to give? Would you be a booster or would you just give to collectives?
I think you make a good point. Like, I don't know if I give money to Rising Spear or Battle's End, does that get me better seats?
Yeah, no, it does not. It does not.
I wouldn't think it should, but it probably doesn't. So I would probably go the booster route, especially because Battle's End seems to be kind of doing it on its own anyway right now. Yeah, like I don't even think it's asking for a lot of help.
They're like, we're good.
I would give to I'd probably give to both. I'd probably 75% booster, 25% collective, because with the collective I know where my booster money is going. I don't know where my collective money is going necessarily. So I don't think I'd do 50-50. I think I'd give more to the boosters. But again, also more seats, better seats. And then, I don't think – look, man, the collectives are again, it's such a gray area, man. It's like, they do have some say in who's on your roster, but I don't think it's going to be like, hey, I know you weren't recruiting them, but we just got you a linebacker from Stone Mountain.
Yeah.
And Norvell's going to be like, wait, what? Who? He's like, it's this kid. We don't want him. Well, you're going to take him. I don't think those conversations are going to happen. I think it's more along the lines of, these are the guys we want. These are the guys we want to keep. Here's our game plan. I don't think it would ever get to the point. It won't ever be like the booster-coach relationship where boosters go to the AD and say, we're not giving you more money.
Yeah.
Unless you – but, what could be a possibility –
if you don't win with the players that they keep,
Correct. That's where it comes in. Well, that's where the collectives come in. It could be like the boosters at Auburn. Like, hey, man, we gave you all this money. You went 6-6. We got you this great team, and you went 6-6. We're not giving you any more money until we get some better coaching in here. Yeah. That's always a possibility. Money controls everything, man. So that's going to be the slippery slope. That's going to be the sticky situation of all of this moving forward. But it's always been that way, hadn't it? Mm-hmm. And college football's always had this going along. It's who's really been in control of college football recruiting, college football coaching staffs. It's not usually the school president. It's the people that control the money, really control the money. And again, the boosters are the ones that pay the coach's salary. So, I guess you could say it like that. Do you want to give money to Mike Norvell or do you want to give it to the players? Like, because the boosters pay the salaries for the most part. So that's a decision for each person.
All right, 3 more. This is a really good question.
Let's go. Let's do it.
Steel 21-27. As currently situated, who would win? Second-string offense with Jordan Travis at quarterback or first-string offense and Tate Rodemaker, both of them going against the first-string defense? Score prediction.
It's a really good question.
It is. It's really
because who's your second-string running back? Toafili?
Yeah.
And your second-string wide receivers are like Portier. Your second-string tight end is, Morlock or Courtney or Biscuit. And it's Jordan Travis. Yeah.
I can't give you a score prediction. I don't know how it would work out.
I just think the offensive line, there might be a hole or two.
Yeah.
Like, I think your starting 5 offensive linemen are going to be a very good group. And I think the beauty of this team coming next year is you're going to have some really experienced guys that aren't starting and that are good backups. Armella might be a backup. He's going to be a really good player, I think. So you're going to have some talent on your second string offensive line, some real talent, like some viable high level college football talent for the first time in a long time. I still think you'd rather have the better offensive line. And you'd rather be throwing it up to Johnny Wilson.
5 drives. 5 drives, you start on your own 25-yard line. I think Jordan leads you to a score on 4 of the drives. I think Tate leads you to score on 3 of them.
Yeah, I think it's 3 and 2, and I think Tate leads you on 3 and Jordan leads you on 2. I just think that offensive line might be a little problematic. You don't get to throw to Johnny Wilson or Jaheim Bell. You don't get to hand the ball off to Trey Benson. So, but still, it's close, right?
Yeah, but yeah, you think about Jared Verse and Fisk and Lovett and Patrick Payton teeing off on the second team offensive line, but it's Jordan Travis.
It's also Jordan Travis back there running. So it's a really good question. Really good question. Really good thought experiment.
850.
And Tate Rodemaker, I just got done singing his praises. He's a good player.
He is.
So he would do pretty darn well with the first team offense, I think.
850 Noles 07. Wake up. I was reading about the NCAA taking a chance on players transferring for the second time. Seems they're not going to be handing out waivers as easily. Do you think it will affect Darrell Jackson playing this season? Is there any concern from the FSU side? I have not heard about that, but yeah, they said that teams must either prove a demonstrated physical injury, illness, or mental health condition, or exigent circumstances, which would be like physical or sexual abuse. All other guidelines will no longer be used for waiver requests to compete during championship season, the NCAA said in a release.
I would think that might be moving forward, not people that have already transferred. But also, I don't know what falls under the umbrella.
And then for mental health, I mean, me being closer to my mother who's going, I think that, I don't think it's going to affect him. He'll be fine.
Yeah, I think that's a very viable and also, I think, real reason.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think it's made up. I think it's real. And, I don't know why they wouldn't do that if you wanted to be close to your mom. If you'd rather be, 20 minutes away than 7 hours away?
And 20 minutes,
yeah.
All right, last one. Tennis Ump. Hey, guys, thanks for all you do. This is the first time in quite a while that we have had a team that has off-season expectations like this. What is your prediction and how they will handle that, as there are many examples over the years of it not being done well? What sort of tone do you think that Mike Norvell and staff will put forward during conditioning and spring ball? Thanks as always.
Yeah, it's a good question, right? Because we brought this up on headlines too. This team hasn't accomplished anything. They haven't won a championship. The only trophy they have has Cheez-Its in it. It's not like they've done great things on the college football level. And I think that point, Norvell likes to build his team up. I also think he can temper it a little bit. And I think he will go above and beyond saying, y'all better not pay attention. We didn't want you paying attention when they all told you how bad you were. We don't want you paying attention when they tell you how great you are either, because none of it matters. It only matters what you're doing right now. And then he brings up the Cheez-It line. All y'all got is some box of Cheez-Its. That's all you've won. There's so much more you guys can accomplish. Don't rest on this. You haven't won anything. You're getting ranked high in polls 9 months before the season starts. It means nothing. I think Norvell will attack it like that. I think he absolutely will. Look, man, Norvell's never had a season like this. I mean, he had really good Memphis teams for sure. That's why he's at Florida State, but they were never preseason 5th. Mm-hmm. Nobody was ever talking about Memphis in January before, 9 months before a season started. So this is the first time he's had a team like this. So it'll be interesting to see how he handles it. But I think that will be the overriding message: is y'all haven't accomplished anything. We didn't want you paying attention when they were saying you were the worst team in Power 5. Well, we don't want you paying attention now. They think you're one of the top 5 best teams in Power 5, or best teams in the country. The next 9 months are all about us and not about what people expect. So that kind of thing. Yeah. But I don't know how they'll handle it. That's a really good. That's the big question. How will they handle it?
And he's talking about the examples over the years of it not being done well. I was talking about here or just around the country. But, yeah, I mean, listen, Jared Verse, Fabian Lovett coming back for a reason. Jordan Travis coming back for a reason. I think they're going to be so focused on that, and they've bought into this this whole 1% better every single day is just an opportunity to get better. It doesn't matter who they're playing. Like all these sort of cliches that sound terrible as a writer writing them down or as a video guy trying to pick out a soundbite. Man, they live and breathe it. So it's hard to imagine. I can't imagine what's going to happen here in the offseason at least. Like maybe once adversity hits them in the season and they do lose a game, something creeps in there. But I think they will be so focused and largely what you talked about, Corey. That they went 10-3. Cool.
Yeah.
But I mean,
you haven't arrived.
Yeah. So
you haven't arrived. At Florida State, you don't arrive by winning a bowl game on December 29th. That's not the standard around here. So you do think that you do hope there's a hunger there, and there really should be. But look, you just don't know until we see it, because you want them to be confident too. You don't want them to be all jittery going into the LSU game, like, oh god, there's so much. You want them to walk onto the field thinking they're the baddest team in the country. But at the same time, the next 9 months are really important in that. You've got to prepare for it, and you've got to work really hard at it, and keep that up. Because again, if you improve like you did from 2021 to 2022, if you make that same sort of improvement from 22 to 23 and have that same kind of work ethic that they clearly had and belief, yeah, man, there's championships to be won. At least at ACC one you can go compete for. But right now you haven't done squat. You won 10 games, which we're all excited about, but I think that's you wonder about because they all got these NIL deals to come back, and so many of them did anyway, and they have been told how great they are. And a lot of these guys have never been told that in their college careers. Most of them haven't. Who has? So it's all a different mindset now. Instead of being a team wanting to prove everybody wrong, now you're a team trying to prove everybody right. And that can be a different mindset. But I trust this coach and this coaching staff and these players, quite frankly, because they're all adults. Most of them are older dudes, to understand what matters and what doesn't and be mature about it.
Well said. All right, that is a wrap for us. We'll do a show for you folks on Monday. We'll try to do 3 of these at least, at minimum, as we like to say. Jeff Cameron Show coming up 1 to 3 o'clock. Stay connected to warchant.com. Lots of recruiting news going on with several visitors on campus. Michael Langston will be posted out front the Moore Center as these players come and go. So stay connected to warchant.com to find out what's going on with all of these recruits. For Corey, I'm Aslan. Thank you for listening to Wake Up Warchant, presented by the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill.